Alright guys, that'll be good. Besides making music, I've been doing mastering work for about 12 years. So I thought it would be cool to do a video about that. I asked the folks on my Patreon to send me some music to master. And I picked a track from Apothicon called Everything. And by the way, you'll find the links to their social media in the description box below. And yeah, we'll just go through the entire project from start to finish, see what I kind of typically like to do, all the steps that I like to take and the processing and everything. And I kind of show you a little bit about mastering. If you're interested in knowing more about my mastering service, mastering.resoundsound.com, link down there. Check out the Patreon as well. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, helps out the channel. Let's jump straight to it. Kind of a harder drum and bass thing, renegade hardware kind of style thing. That's how they described it. This is the raw mix down they sent to me, and I thought I'll kind of walk you through the entire process of me mastering a track, what it entails, because sometimes people have, and I don't blame them, have a kind of limited understanding of what mastering entails. The usual idea of it is just to put some plugins on a track and try to make it sound better, which is, it's a part of it. It's trying to make it sound better, but there's also other things involved. I thought maybe just go through the entire process. I loaded up in the audio editor first, just to listen to it. I don't want to do anything to it at this point. Just listen to it first. From beginning to the end, and then just kind of start making some ideas of about what it possibly needs. So as I listen to it, we have the different options here to look at the spectrogram. We have different types of visual modes here we can use in Wavelab. There's also the global analysis here, and something I always check is the DC offset here, if it's gonna be a problem or if it's something I need to do something about. In this case, it's not. So one thing I do at this point is to just look at the meters. If there's some errors, sometimes at this point I will go into spectral editing and try to fix things there. Kind of hone in on some details. There's some annoying one-off sounds and things like that that I want to get fixed before I start processing with plugins. Something I'm noticing here is looks like we have some low end coming from some of the sounds. That's below 26 Hertz. So we might want to address that. It's not always a problem, but maybe in a track like this that likes to go pretty loud. This stuff may not be something we want. As it gets limited, it gets pushed up, and it's gonna eat up some headroom. It's not the worst case. Sometimes you see stuff almost as loud as the peaks up here. So that's definitely when I wanna do some high-pass filtering. In this case, I did end up doing a high-pass filter, but only at 20 Hertz, and yeah, just knocking off a little bit of that stuff. I don't want it to do high-pass filtering unless I have to, so nothing is by default. Yeah, just this is a really good view of kind of getting an idea of there's some odd peaks and resonances. You can start to get an idea. It's nice to have the history here. So with 2D analyzer, you can also try to spot those things, but it kind of goes past so fast. Sometimes you miss them. So I really like this view. I also like the 2D spectrograph is good as well. So now that I've been listening to it, trying to make some ideas of what I want to do with this track and what it needs. The low mid area could use some more definition. There's a little bit too much stuff going in there. At this point, what I will do is I will create a little montage here of the current audio file here. I'm just gonna show you a couple of things that I always do first when loading things up into the montage. So the first thing I like to do is I create the start and end markers for the track, or if it's several tracks out for the entire EP, the release. So there's several different types of markers you can create in Wavelab. We're not going to get into that. It's not really a Wavelab tutorial, but it's going to create start and end markers for the track or tracks in question. As you can see, we got markers here now, and I'm going to set the pre-gap of this track to 200 milliseconds. So just that will create 200 milliseconds of empty space the beginning of the file, as you can see here. So as I start playing, some CD players and some streaming services, they kind of not like to have that empty space here. This is such a small amount of time that you don't really notice it. So that's done. Now check the end marker here. Snap it here for now. Then I will check the start and end of each track and see. That's good. I'm gonna zoom in, and as you can see, cuts off. So we want to smooth out that fade. Maybe use a exponential fade. Could do a bit. Something like that. And we can tune the endpoint if we want to have some more empty space at the end of the track. And then we'll check the beginning of the track. There was actually a click in this case. So let's hear it. You hear the little pop in there. So just gonna do a fade of 1 millisecond. I think that's gonna sort it out. There you go. Clean. So we just get the start and end right and the markers before I start working on the processing. Also, another thing to do is to get the metadata sorted out. So I'm just gonna write that's all sorted out. If there were more tracks, I'm just gonna populate all these fields, and that's gonna, when I render the file, it's gonna put that stuff into the metadata, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Then I'm gonna just do one more thing. I'm gonna name the track here in the CD list. I'm gonna name the clip. Okay, I usually render 4 different formats for each project. So if I had to, if it's an album with 11 tracks, and I will render it in 4 different formats, if I had to enter all that metadata manually, it would be a mission. And so Wavelab takes care of all that for me. As long as I've kind of went ahead and entered all this information ahead of time. Okay, so that's the basic starting premise for all projects. Just listen to it, check out any errors, any DC offset, any clicks, pops, things like that need to be fixed in the file. I also forgot to mention if there's something. The way I like to work is if there's some big issues in the track, I always, if there's time, I try to get the client to work on the mix rather than me trying to fix it in the mastering stage. It always leads to a better result if it's something I know the client can probably fix, or at least attempt to fix. Sometimes, depending on the client, it's not possible. Maybe they can't hear it with the monitoring they have, or maybe they don't have the skills to kind of work on that sort of thing. So it depends on the client what I will tell them, but I always try to work with the client. It always helps them to improve their mixing skills, production skills on the long run. So they can get the feedback from me. It's gonna get the best possible end results, and so I can focus more on making things sound good rather than fixing problems, and also they can have the information going forward what to improve in their music. Not everybody wants to do that. Some people just want me to take off the project from their hands and kind of take it from there and finish it up, and that's fine. But if there's time, some people like to work with me, and that's what that's my preference. Anyways, let's jump into the actual project here. Now I've got some reference tracks set up here. I've got the same mix down here, and I have the client actually sent me a loud version as well. So I've got those lined up here, so I can quickly switch between those tracks if I want to reference them. I also have loaded up here in my metric AB. So I've got the meta normalizer here, and I'm gonna select the track. And this what this does is looks for the way I like to do it is I use the top of loudness range here. So what this does is looks for the loudest part of the track, and then according to that it makes it minus 18 LUFS the entire track. So to hit apply, and now it's at a good gain for me to start working on. So I always bring everything to minus 18 LUFS before I start working. And that's also why it's not really important for, you know, some people say you need to send mastering in minus 6 or whatever dB. It's not really important because the mastering guy is going to adjust the headroom anyway to whatever they want to work with. In my case, it's minus 18 LUFS. That's I've got my processing, my presets, everything dialed in for that, and that's my process. Other people have different levels they like to work with, and if you have some analog gear, you might need to work at a specific volume to accommodate that specific gear. I always like to do limiting first, get some sort of level going, not the final limiting, but get some sort of get it to the right ballpark. I actually started with a different limiter. In this case, I started with, well, I usually start with limitless. I'm looking at the meters over here, so we're at minus 7 LUFS roundabout. It's a good level for this track, I think. Might do a little bit less. Anyways, as I do this initial limiting here, it's gonna reveal me how the track reacts to it. If the bass is too loud, the limiter is gonna start cramping out and stuff like that. So we have initial limiting set up. I ended up switching to Newfangled Elevate. For this track, it sounded cleaner to me. So there you go. I'll remove this. So we got this Elevate running here. The initial level, because all the processing we do here, it will sound different based on whether we have limiting or not. So I like to have the limiting on first, and then we'll start working on the processing against the limiter. If I do all the processing first and then add the limiting is gonna change the balance oftentimes. Especially this one is one that will change the frequency balance oftentimes. So it's better to work into it rather than just add it as an afterthought. Right, so the low mids. Here's what I've done. I'm using the multiplicity here, and I'm doing a little bit of cleanup on the low mids here, and then I'm actually adding a little bit of transient energy up top. We're gonna bypass the transient band for now, and let's see the difference. What is taking away from the low mids. So just cleaning up the low mids, some resonances over here, and then there's an area around 180 that I kind of wanted to hone in on even more. So I'm using this, for this band I'm using the below threshold ratio here, so it starts to compresses when the signal is below the threshold. When it comes up, that's the kick drum. When it hits, it doesn't do anything to that. That's why it's bouncing. When the kick drum hits, it stops the compression. So the kick drum comes through, and then when the kick drum isn't playing, it's taking out some of those low mids. 2 dB to be exact. Then with this you can really set things up really precisely. I really like that. Then we got a few resonances here. So that's the snare ringing there. I wanted to reduce that. And I'm just using the normal compression, but I'm using it in infinite ratio. And capped to -8 dB. And I'm taking this out from the mids only. Let's see what I'm doing. I'm taking from the mids and the sides on this band. And actually, you can also affect the dynamics or the transient part of the signal. So I forgot to mention with this band, I'm affecting the dynamic part of the signal. So I can, if I wanted to, I can set it to affect the transients only, or the dynamic part of the signal. There's so many options with this one. You can really precisely hone in on things. As well here on this band as well, I'm honing in on the dynamics and in the mid channel, so I'm not doing anything to the size. So kind of let the transient pass through, and the ringing here is obviously part of the dynamics, part of the dynamic. They call it dynamic, so it's the what's left when the transient goes away. So that's what it's taking out. Same thing here. A little bit of ringing there, and here as well. This multiplicity is linear phase, so it's really quite amazing how it can maintain the integrity of the sound, and you don't have to worry about doing mid-side stuff because it keeps the phase intact with being a linear phase process. Up here, we're just adding a little bit of transient snap here. So I thought it could use a little bit more snap, just 1.5 dB, ratio 1.6. So it's expanding the transients upwards. But it starts to clean up the low mids, adds a little bit of energy up top. Right, let's move on. So this one is doing most of the heavy lifting here. Now I usually like to do the cleanup first, and then move on to tone shaping. And that's what this one is doing. Turn it on. I'm gonna bypass it a couple of times here. So as you can see, I'm really taking control of the low end here. Then adding some mids and yeah, just slightly rolling, taking out the highs, not really much. And also you see the yellow and blue lines here. That's a slight difference between left and right, so it's adding a little bit of kind of what analog EQ would do, because it's never really super precise. Or completely precise, even when it's super precise. Just adding -0.1 dB differences, 0.2 dB to left and right. It just creates a tiny bit of width to the sound stage. So here I'm using the low cut here to kind of what I showed you before. There was some kind of a little bit of rumble down here. You can turn off the FTT if you want to as well. Kind of working on that stuff. Put the output actually. You can see it, so turn it on. It removes that stuff. Or reduces it. I didn't want to go any further than that because it will start to affect the sub here. So the sub was a bit loud over here, so kind of pulled that down a little bit. Also the low end was in general was a little bit too much. And then just balancing out, bringing up the mids here. So here bypassed one more time. Just making it tighter, cleaning up. Next up, I've got the center one here, Leap Wing. With this one, I thought it could use a little bit more punch and you know, more upfront kind of vibe. So I wanted the drums to come through a little bit more. So what this does is it's a left, right, center decoding. So I'm taking out 2 dB from the left and right, and you can change the center channel width here as well. So you can define how wide you want the center channel to be. So it's kind of taking the center channel, which is the drums and the bass, and kind of pushing it forward a tiny bit. Let's hear what it's doing. I'm gonna use this one here. Just pushing the drums a tiny bit more. We can really solo if we want to even solo the center channel here and adjust the width. How much you want it to affect. There's also center prominence control, which kind of does the same thing in a different way. In this case, I haven't used that. Sometimes I use this one instead of this. So let's hear up to this point what we have going. Bypassed. Okay. So we're starting to come to a pretty good point, I think. And I'm happy with the general EQ, happy with the punch. But I thought it was losing a little bit of too much of the low end here. And I kind of tried playing around with multiplicity and sleek EQ and actually a lot of other things as well. I kind of tried what would work best. And I wanted to add a little bit more low end, but while keeping it tight and not making it sound boomy. So that's what I wanted to get rid of with these processes, the boominess and the kind of, it was some add some more definition. So I ended up with this one. So I'm just adding a little bit of lows here, and also adding the air in here a little bit, as well as so somewhere around it's around 2 to 4K. Adding just a touch. So this is quite a special EQ. Kind of works a lot in the phase domain, and it tends to have an effect where it, you know, like can keep things really tight. It's kind of hard to explain, but when you boost this, it really avoids making things boomy. But of course, if you do it to wrong frequencies, it will sound bad. So let's hear it. So you see how you hear how the low end comes back. I'm gonna use the master bypass here. So I'm just adding 22%. Let's crank that up even more, just so you can hear what it's adding. Even if I crank it up this much, it still kind of sounds pretty good. If I try to do this same on another EQ, and I did try to do that, and it just didn't work out very well. So yeah, I really love this EQ for situations like this. Also, yeah, just adding a little bit of air here. Just a touch. And around this upper mids region, it's a really important region for a track like this. I just wanted to add a touch more aggression, a touch more, you know, that Renegade hardware kind of thing going. So I'm gonna saturate these frequencies so you can hear what I'm adding. So those are the frequencies I'm adding, just a hair. And I usually just go by each one, kind of see how it sounds, if there's something I want to add, and then I'll just determine how much I will add. You can bypass the bands here as well. It's a pretty good one. I really like this one. But yeah, now we got the frequency balance dialed in. I really wanted to have that kind of mid-forward vibe. We're still, you know, with enough bass, but that's kind of the Renegade hardware sound to me. Is the mid-forward kind of aggression, and it's really important to have that dialed in. So I wanted to add a little bit more analog kind of vibe here. So what I've done here is use the P42. I'm not using any of the filters. Everything is turned off. I'm just using the saturation here to add a little bit of drive, because it's that kind of track. You just use a little bit more aggression. I didn't want to change the character too much, but let's see what it's doing. For some, I will use the low shelf, high shelf air as well in a mastering situation, but you kind of have to be really careful with those for mastering. Just look at the elevate as well. So with this one, I compared to I usually most of the time I use limitless, but if for some reason I feel like sometimes it changes the character of the material. If I want to push things hard, like in this case, I wanted to go pretty loud, around -7. We're at -7.5 now. I thought the limitless started to kind of break up a little bit, and this one sounded cleaner to me. So also what I like about this is you have the transient shaping here, and allows you to kind of preserve some more of the transients. Sometimes I do a similar thing with limitless, but I just use a transient shaper before that interchange, so I kind of do the similar thing with that as well. But yeah, I like this one. It has the option to I've actually pushed the transients here on the low bands a little bit more, so again to give it that low end punch and add to that kind of clarity I wanted in the low end. And then just fairly fast release, doing not a ton of limiting, it's around 3 dB, and just half dB clipping as well. Adds a nice last touch of aggression here. We can actually compare to the let's pull the metric AB here. Compared to the original, we actually got the loud mix here, so they've added limiter, so I think it's a fair comparison. Let's see the loudness here. So we're a little bit louder. I'm gonna pull this down to match 1.2 dB. Looks like we're pretty much same level, not even a bit quite low. 1.1 dB. 1.0. Alright, that looks pretty good to me. And we got to sync to the track we're playing. So orange is the reference mix from the client, and the blue is what I've done to it. Let's try switching. Same loudness. So there you go. I always also check the correlation here, that it's okay. I check the stereo image. If it's looking too narrow, I might bring it up a little bit. In this case, I felt it was good. Also the low end, if there's a lot of stereo image going on, I might mono the lows. In this case, I think I didn't need to do that, did I? Yeah, I'm not using the low mono filter there, so I haven't touched the low end stereo image wise. Down in range, I like to look at that as well. Also, I have different meters I like to use. I like to use this Hawkeye as well, SPL Hawkeye. And I like to look at the 1/3 octave view, especially here. This will show me if it starts going into red here, then there's usually a problem. If I start getting a lot of stuff in the red, some tracks it's okay, but generally speaking, this is a good. Tells me if it's limited to -7, -8, not hitting the reds, then everything's pretty good. It has a kind of tendency to roll off the lows with the analysis, so sometimes the lows might be a problem even if it's not showing in the red. But yeah, I really like this plugin for the way this is calibrated. If compared to metric AB, it's pretty much useless. The 3rd octave view here starts clipping to see. It's definitely not clipping. We're still below -6 around this area, and this here shows it's above 0. I don't know what's up with that, but it just makes this 3rd octave view pretty useless. I haven't been able to. I've tried all the settings and everything, and I haven't been able to fix that. Anyways, I also like the correlation metering here, the balance, DC offset. It will really show if you start getting some strange stuff here. The bit depth meter here as well. Sometimes clients send like 32-bit stuff and it still shows 16 bits. So obviously there's been some processing going on there, and it's not a true 32-bit file. So this can really reveal stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, you just wanted to basically make the point. I like to use different types of metering to kind of look at things. Also, there's the supervision by Steinberg, which is very useful as well. I really like this stereo meter and the multi-correlation here. This will also show if things get out of phase and where exactly. And this is the same stereo kind of metering that you have on metric AB that I just showed you. And you get tons of things here to choose from. You can pull up a VU meter if you want and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. It's just that this one I find it takes a bit of CPU, so I don't like to keep it. I just load it up if I need to. And the track meter is pretty good for CPU wise. I've been kind of noticing recently. I've been demoing with this for a week or two now. It's pretty good for CPU use, so I'm probably gonna buy this. I like to just have it on there always. Okay, from here on, what happens next? I forgot to mention I've done a little bit of volume automation here as well. So kind of to make it drop harder, I've just kind of dropped 1 dB. I think 1 dB here, just 1 dB from the intro, and then just go full on from the beginning. Sometimes I might do different sections of the track differently, depending on the type of music I'm mastering. Usually not for drum and bass, usually, but or club music. But I'm working on some pop stuff or hip hop or whatever. I might want to go have the verses coming louder, or maybe even the last verse a bit louder than everything else. So volume automation is a really useful tool as well. So from here on, what I would do is I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the rest of the steps. I will use one of my archival master preset here to render this out. And what that's gonna do is gonna render a 64-bit file, which is like the archival master. From there on, I will get a new batch processor going, and you see I have my different formats here that I deliver for mastering. So I got 16-bit 44 wave files, MP3 files. So this one does both actually, wave and MP3. We've got 24-44 wave files, and then we got the high-res wave files. So these are the 4 different formats that I deliver in mastering. And so I'm just gonna, when I have the archival master bounced, the 64-bit file, which makes no sense to send that to the client ever. So I'm gonna pull up the batch processor here, and I'm gonna resample it down to because I usually work in this case, because I'm recording the video, I've got it set to 44 kilohertz this project, but I usually work in 96K when mastering. So we need to resample that. The archival master is a 96K 64-bit file, so we want to resample it back down. Wavelab has a really good quality resampling, so there's no worries in doing that. So I always upsample when I start the project, and then resample it down to the destination format. And then I have a true peak limiter here, and I will always adjust this according to situation. So in this case, it's a track for club use. Sometimes if I know it's for club play only, that's the primary concern of the client, I will not use true peak limiting. I'm just going to use PCM limiting, which allows the true peaks to get through that kind of, because true peak will remove a little bit of punch from the track. And the CDJ, the Pioneer CDJs in the clubs, they will handle this PCM just fine. Any good quality DAC, digital to analog conversion will handle it fine. And that's just going to be a problem with, let's say you have an Spotify, you upload tracks to Spotify and it gets converted to Spotify's own format, and you have some true peak clipping, then that might cause distortion. So in that case, it's better to use true peak limiting. And I'm gonna just adjust. Got different presets here. Sometimes I use -2, -1, and as I said, oftentimes just 0.2 if I really want to make it loud for DJ play. Sometimes I just master stuff for DJ play only also, so it's not even gonna get released, at least that version. So I've got the peak limiting, true peak limiting here, and then I have this, which is always the last step in the chain. And then just gonna pull up the archival master, which I have rendered here already. And I've got 1644 WAV MP3 batch processor here. So let's say I have I have an EP with 4 tracks. I'm just gonna drop all 4 tracks here, and it will render out the files for me. And you can see it made the folders there. And as soon as I drop it in, it starts rendering. Soon you'll find it goes away here. And now it's ready, and we have the files here ready to go. And the metadata, everything is should be there. I can check that. I can pull that up into my meta here, so you can see artist, title, everything is good. If I wanted to add artwork to the MP3, if there's artwork to add, I can do that here. I can also do that in Wavelab if I want to. And the last thing I will do is I will, after I have rendered all the files for the client, I will render out the report of the process project. So I can render out this CD report here. So this is just gonna change the path here. Just gonna render a report of the project. I'm just gonna show you what that looks like. So a PDF that goes with the files that I'm delivering. So it includes an explanation of the different formats, because not everyone knows what to do with these. So just a little explanation. Of course, you can always ask me also. But and also the duration of, if there's many different tracks, it shows the exact durations of the tracks. If there's ISRC codes, those will be in the metadata as well, and they will be shown here as well. So I just throw in this report for when I deliver the final files to the client as well. That's it pretty much. Then I usually, before sending the final delivery, I will send just a 2444 or 1644 WAV file to the client, just to listen to give me any thoughts. In this case, the guys were happy with what I've done. There were no requests for further adjustments. So of course that makes me happy as well. But mushing is sometimes also, I'm human, I make mistakes, but also it's sometimes a matter of taste. So if the client wants anything changed, I will work on it until the client's happy. No extra charge. That also for me is part of the process, and it comes with the trade. You want to make the client happy, and you want everyone to be happy with the project, and it doesn't make any sense to charge more. The only case when I charge more if the pre-master changes. So if the client sends me a new pre-master, in some cases I will charge more, because I might have to, if I've done let's say spectral editing and removing clicks and pops, and then I will have to do all that again from the start. So I might have spent 1 or 2 hours on in some cases, if it's a really difficult one, on stuff like that, and then the client wants to change the pre-master. In that case, I need to charge for the time that I have to put into it. But in many cases, it's no problem to if there's small adjustments from the client side. It's fine. Okay, I think that pretty much covers the entire thing. Maybe one last thing I like to say. I always like to zip up files when I'm sending them to client. So I make a zip of the final delivery package, and that kind of protects it from against being corrupted in the transfer. So if I send wave files to a client and there's something goes wrong in the download, there might be clicks and pops, or some sections even missing in the wave file, and there's no way of knowing that unless you just listen to it and notice it. Whereas if I send a zip file, the clients, if there's a problem with the download, if the file becomes corrupt in the download, you can't even open the zip file. So you kind of prevents those situations where you have a WAV file that has some corruption. So that's just the one last detail. So you kind of wanted to give you an idea of what the mastering process is, and always also listen to everything before I send it out. So that's an important step of mastering, is just to the quality control. So sometimes when you render stuff, some plugins can still do some funny stuff. Let's say that you, for some reason, a plugin lost a license, your iLock is not registering and the plugin is not working correctly, or maybe there's some plugins that start to put out some bursts of noise. Maybe you updated a plugin and it's not licensed properly, and or maybe it's just a bug in the plugin. Maybe sometimes it can cause a click in the beginning of the track when you render it, and you don't really notice it here. So always important to listen to the files before sending them to the client. I usually like to do that with my headphones. Can really allows me to pick up things, some small errors and things that might still be there. Alright guys, that's it. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, just drop them down below and I'll do my best to answer them. And if you want more like one-on-one type support, you can get that through Patreon. Alright, check out the links down there, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, take care.